Hey everyone, this is Ben. Hey, thank you for joining us today on this episode of the Semper Gumbie channel. Let me tell you, it is cold outside. It is 28 degrees and parts of the Midwest and up north from us are getting plastered with snow. And they're calling for snow here in Tennessee. Hopefully it won't be as much as they did up north. But it is diesel heater season. And when I mean diesel heater, you know, going on our camping adventures or boondocking or just to keep warm during the winter months, because a lot of us like to camp during the fall and winter, we all use this right here, the diesel heater. And I've done 2 other video reviews on 2 different diesel heaters in the last 2 weeks, but this one right here is going to blow you away. This right here is the new HCalory TB2 Max. It's an 8 kilowatt diesel heater with a huge fuel tank, and we'll get into all the specifics here in a little bit, but I want to thank HCalory for sending us the TB2 Max for testing and review. And I'm going to talk about it, and we're going to go dig into it, and I'll tell you some of the features, and then we're going to go ahead and fire it up outside where it's 28 degrees. Diesel heaters have come a long way in the last couple of years. I remember my first diesel heater, it was skinny and tall, and it had an external fuel tank. And what I didn't like about it, that it was top heavy, and if you bumped into it, it could fall over. When you look at the TB2 Max, first thing you're gonna see how small and compact it is, and it kind of looks like a power station, like a Blue Eddy or any of the other power station because of the carrying handles. Now the outside of the ends are hard ABS plastic, as the middle is nice metal, and it's got a lot of screws on there. So if you had to go in there, you have to remove probably about 16 different screws. You can now monitor the diesel fuel level with the sight glass on the side. And I like this because now you don't have to open up the unit to see how much fuel is in the tank. The diesel cap is like their other ones. I mean, it does have a rubber seal on there, and it also comes with a filter. So in case you drop any debris, or you know, to keep out any of any kind of trash or anything in there, it'll keep it out. And it does have a rubber seal on the bottom of the cap as well. One cool feature with the Toolbox Max is the LCD screen and the controls are housed in this plastic protective compartment here, and you can take the control out, and it does come with a cord that you can run into your tent or into your vehicle or your camper. But you look at this right now, it's only probably about 12 inches long, but they do give an extension which would give you an additional 3 or 4 feet that you can connect to the other end and then run it into your vehicle, tent, or your rig. Now let's get to the cool part of this. If this little compartment here has a space for the remote control. Now this remote control has a built-in carbon monoxide sensor as well as a thermostat. So if you keep this near you in your rig or your tent, and you set this at a preset temperature, this Toolbox Max will regulate the temperature based on this remote control. And like I said, it has a built-in carbon monoxide as well, and it is USB rechargeable, so you will never ever have to replace batteries. So if you look at the bottom, that little hole there, it should tell you, it should say carbon monoxide, CO. But it's a really cool feature. It's just your normal LCD screen. I don't know if you guys can see that. And if you're like me, I lose a lot of remote controls. And I can't remember where I put my other one for my TB2S. But this one has a space compartment that you can just insert it right up in here. Let me move this cap so you guys can see. And then it just fits right inside. And then you can just go ahead and close the cover and keep everything all in there. Now this isn't waterproof, it is water resistant. HCalory says you can get snow on it and get a little bit of moisture, and you can leave it outside of your rig, but it's not waterproof, so just be aware of that. And I have never had an issue with any of my diesel heaters being wet or the moisture or being frozen as far as ice. So when you look at the exhaust for the heat on your hose, the diameter of this is 3 inches. Now, in the past, they have had 3.5, 4 inches, but the problem lies when you buy an extension, a dryer hose, either a 6 feet, 8 foot, or 12 or 16 foot. It's a little bit too big for this diameter. So there's two ways you can do this. They do supply a flexible metal hose that goes over that. Basically, you will clamp on this with a hose clamp, and then you can slide your heater hose or your dryer vent hose over this and clamp it to this. Another way is to use a silicone adapter. You can get on Amazon I believe it's a 4 inch to a 3.5 inch. A 3.5 inch would go on here, and then the dryer hose would go on to the other end. So you can get those for about $16 or so on Amazon. But until then, like I said, you can just put this hose on, clamp it, and then slide over your hose from your dryer vent hose over this. When you purchase your ToolBox Max, you're going to get your 3-inch metal hose. You're going to get a vent cover. Of course, you're going to get your 110 or 24 volt power cord. And as you can see, these are your typical cords. They fit fridges, they fit all other diesel heaters as well. Of course, you're going to get your remote control right there. Put that back in here so Ben doesn't lose it. You're going to get your extension for your LCD control if you decide you want to carry that into your tent. But I use the remote control, and you'll also be able to use the app on your iPhone. You're going to get your muffler. I normally don't run these mufflers, but that's an option if you want. And then of course you're going to get your metal exhaust pipe. Now you can cut this to length. I usually like cutting it and keeping it short instead of running the whole length of pipe. And I usually cut it about here and bend it down. And then of course you're going to get your 12 volt for your battery if you want to hook this up to a lithium battery or any kind of battery, and it does have that same adapter on the other end. Now when I say that this exhaust hose or pipe is fairly close to the ground, it is, but HCalory has taken it one more further. They do supply these awesome brackets, risers, that will lift up your diesel heater about 2 or 3 inches off the ground so you don't have to worry about burning anything. So that is pretty cool for them to come up with that. But, and of course you are going to get your toolbox manual and your hardware for clamps and your mounting screws for your diesel heater risers. So this ToolBox Max is supposed to be super efficient. They say you can get up to 60 hours of runtime. Now I've never had a diesel heater to run over 30 hours. But my last one that I just did on the Bouge RV, that ran for about 50 hours. So a lot of folks are asking, what about it if I'm at elevation? Well, I did a lot of altitude camping this past summer, which I was at 13,000 feet, 11,000 feet, 10,000 feet. And I did bring a diesel heater, the smaller brother to this one right here, which had an elevation adjustment on there. This one too has a elevation adjustment. So if you're at altitude, this thing will self-adjust and take in consideration the altitude error. Another function will be the automatic on-off. You can program this thing to come on at a certain temperature and shut off at a certain temperature. So you don't have, throughout the night, as it gets colder, it'll kick back on, and then it'll kick off when it hits, if it gets too hot in your rig. Now, I've run this diesel heaters, not this one yet, but I've ran diesel heaters at level 2 during the night because it's gotten so, I mean, it's so efficient. I had to unzip my rooftop tent, or I had to open up some windows. The really good thing about diesel heaters, it's a dry heat. Now, a lot of folks is like, well, I don't know if I want to spend that much money on there. I want to get a buddy heater or a propane heater. Now, that's fine, but just remember that a propane heater gives wet heat, moist. So as you run it, you're going to get condensation either dripping from the top of the tent or on the walls. But the dangerous part about propane heaters, you do not want to fall asleep with it on. People have fell asleep with their propane heaters and it created carbon monoxide, and they never woken up. They had, they had passed away. So I don't like using propane heaters. And even though I do have a diesel heater, this thing has a carbon monoxide alarm. I do also have a secondary external one in the dirt box itself, and I have one in this camper. So, $12, $14 for a carbon monoxide sensor is a small price to pay for your life. So check it out on Amazon. I'll put the links in the description below. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up, and I'm going to show you what I've got with my other Toolbox 2S out heating up this cabin. So here in the off-grid cabin, I do have my my stove, my wood-burning stove, and that helps out a lot. But I also have a diesel heater out here, the TB2S, and I'll show you that in a little bit, which provides supplement heat to the cabin. So this is the HCalory TB2S. It is the smaller version of the TB2 Max. Now, as you can see, I've got it piped in to a RV dump valve. That's right, RV dump valve, where I can open and close the gate if I'm not using it, or I can control the flow. And it goes into the cabin with a, I had to just drill a 3-inch hole using a hose saw. It comes in through this hose and vents nice hot diesel heat right there. Like I said, this is a supplemental for the cabin, and it helps takes out the sting. I only put about 3 liters in there, but I've got the exhaust hose or exhaust pipe hooked up, and I also got it hooked up to a 12-volt power station. Now, a lot of folks saying that, some of these power stations, now the smaller power stations, when you plug it into the DC 12-volt cigarette plug, it's only 10 amps. And a lot of times that these diesel heaters will exceed that 10 amps and trip the power station. Now, I've been using Blue Eddy and Lee Time to power up all my diesel heaters, and I've never had that issue where it had tripped off. In fact, I've never ever had that. So today we're going to do the same thing, test it. And I also have my Lee Time battery heater, and this is a 12.8 230 amp hours, and I'll be putting that in the truck as well as a backup. But let's go ahead and power this thing up. So I guess I'll have a cup of coffee while I wait in this cold morning crisp air. But it is firing up. So when you first fire up your diesel heater, or when you get your diesel heater, they recommend running it about 30 minutes. That way you can get all the oils and everything out from the unit itself. I've never had an issue with it. It'll smoke just for a little bit, but that's about it. Like right now there's no smoke and it's running pretty efficient on 9. And it's putting out some pretty good warm air. Now I've got the microphone about 12 inches away from the exhaust, so you probably can hear it, but as I adjust this down to, let's go to level 2. And you'll hear it settle down just a little bit. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hook up my cabin duct to this and pipe this hot air inside. So no sense waste hot air, right? Okay, so I've got it running. You hear how quiet it is. I've got it piped into the cabin, and no sense waste all this hot air. And let's go ahead and crank it up to 9 and see how much flow we got into the cabin. Well folks, there it is. The unboxing, the setup, the operation and review of the HCalory TB Toolbox Max 8 kilowatt diesel heater. This thing is warming up my off-grid cabin right now, and it is super quiet. I'm very impressed. And my last 3 videos on diesel reviews have been, they all have had 0 ticks. So a lot of the manufacturers are going away with that fuel pump tick. The one thing I like about this diesel heater, it is even smaller. In fact, it's the smallest diesel heater I've ever owned, and I'm looking forward to using it. So I will post the specifications right here so we can look at it, the weight, the dimensions, and the price. And right now it's regular price is $299, and I know that's a little bit pricey for a diesel heater, but Black Friday sales and Christmas sales are coming. So Cyber Monday is tomorrow. So check it out on HCalory.com or on their Amazon store, HCalory, that's HCalory. And I will post the specs right here. Also, the weight, the dimensions, and like I said, it's the smallest diesel heater I've ever had and the most quietest. So anyway, if you got any questions, pop them in the box below and I'll answer them the best I can. Also, consider subscribing and liking the channel. Comment, please. That helps the algorithm. And consider about being one of our Patreon members. It don't cost nothing, as low as $3 a month. You can become a Patreon member. In fact, I will be giving away the HCalory TB2 that I've used and tested for about a week now at the beginning of the year. So here's your chance to get a diesel heater the beginning of the year, and all you have to do is just pay for shipping. So anyway, again, pop your comments in the box below. We want to thank you for watching the video. Until next video, this is Ben from the homestead with my diesel heater, Semper Gumbie out.